behalf of the international community in general, and particularly for what we call today the Global South, the importance for them to link disarmament to sustainable development goal. Yesterday, we have had facts which goes that Africa is the second largest importer of arms. If those budgets that are allocated to armament, if those budgets were transferred to sustainable development goals, which 17 goals are very noble goals, particularly for Africa.
The key points in my presentation was basically to draw attention to the need for disarmament. When explaining a concept to a person, it's important to give them some background to understand properly why it's important, which is what I try to do. And access to opportunity is one of the most important things for a young, aspiring diplomat. You have to capitalize on all of these opportunities, and Model UN gives you that access. And I think in that regard, Model UN, especially the AZU one, which is currently ongoing, is successful.
All right, hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar. I'll start with introducing myself before I yield the floor to Carlos. So my full name is Jihan Shintoufi. I'm an external advisor and an ambassador for Azor MUN Club. I would also just like to remind you that we will announce the successful candidates for our recruitment campaign by the end of the live. Carlos, you can go ahead.
How are you, Jihan? It's a pleasure to be here. Before anything, I'm going to introduce myself as well. I am Carlos Gonzalez. I am the international ambassador from MUN Azor. And well, I'm a law student. I am from Venezuela, currently living in Spain. And well, looking forward to have a nice chat over here with you, Jihan. It's a pleasure.
Same. All right. So should we start with the presentation?
Sure.
All right, so obviously our topic for today is the use of social media by politicians. With our first segment, it will be an introduction to the topic. So our first title is why and how is social media used in politics in general? Can you please? Thank you very much. All right. So for why, I would actually like to introduce you to two different perspectives. I would like for you to see from the perspective of the politician and the perspective of the user, or more of the people. So talking about the politicians, first things off, it improves their public image. It improves their public image by making them look more accessible throughout the interactions that they can have with the people on social media. Not only that, but it also offers them with a high reach, because as we know nowadays, social media is not only for young people, it also has some of our elder generations. And so it makes the information that they want to communicate available to more people. And last but not least, it cancels political hierarchy, but we'll go back to that and we'll see if it's really true or not. But normally, social media should not be a biased platform, right? So all the politicians have the same chance of getting or reaching to the people throughout the platform. They're not, it's not biased. Just like some broadcasting channels, sometimes for example, when we have a debate show, sometimes when they have two different political parties debating with each other, they would give more time to one party than another one. On social media, normally there's none of that. So for the user, perspective, the first thing is that it promotes citizen-based democracy. And so you may think that this is quite, a high, end title for this, or that it's maybe too much, but it's really not, because on social media, the user has the power over the trends. So we're the ones that like the posts, reposts, we may even dislike, we comment. And so we give the power to that politician, and that's what democracy is. It's for the people, by the people, right? And so one other thing is that it gives us rough information and data. Why is that? As I already mentioned, nowadays, most broadcasting channels are not exactly transparent, right? And so what we may want to do with that to get a really good information is to go and look up the rough information. For example, if a show is talking about a scientific research and is interpreting it in its own way, throughout social media, we can find the rough materials and we can interpret it our own way, right? And so the last thing is that obviously you have the possibility of interactions that relates to the public image. Mainly it's, you can, for example, ask some questions you have about a certain project that a politician is launching. You can actually have, interactions with other people, other debates, political debates, talk about one idea. And so that leads us to how it is used. Mainly social media is used, to obviously as a communication channel, so to give information. But more than that, they use social media, politicians, they have lives too, webinars as well. They interact through comments. And so all of this, it's what we call political advertising. All right.
That's right, Jihan. What you were saying, it's really important. And following the same line that you were speaking before, I would like to introduce, how this use of the social media has been relevant, and well, of course, what's the impact that it has had on our regular life, and of course in politics.
Yeah.
I am much of a data person, so I like to introduce some important facts and some important data that I consider necessary in order to understand the relevance. The first thing that I was impressed when preparing everything about this webinar was, nowadays our population, the world population, stands somewhere between 7.9 and 8 billion people. And from those 8 billion people that we have all around the world, approximately 4.7, almost 4.8 people uses actively social media. That is somewhere about 60% of the world population. I think these numbers are massive and are really important to consider in order to understand, the relevance that the social media actually has nowadays. There is a study that talks about all the positive and negative impacts that social media has, because we have to understand that this is a massive thing. Social media is a massive. It's something that is on our daily basis. Every day we wake up, and most of us, the first thing that we do is grab our phones and check on Twitter, Instagram, well, all of our social medias. And we have to understand that, as important as it is, brings positive and also negative things. I want to talk about the positive things, and one of the most important things to consider positive from social media, it's the information. Approximately 73% of the people that use social media nowadays consider that they are more informed about current events in other countries and, well, in all around the world since the social media exists. So that's important. You know, a few years before, something that happened in Japan or on the other side of the world, you wouldn't know until maybe next day, because you have to check on the newspaper, or if we go back in time, not even the day, you know, after that, but some months before. So I think that's important, because we can know what's happening on the other side of the world immediately. 1 second after it happens, we have access to that information. So that's really important. And also, 73% of the people consider that they're more informed about the current events in their own country, which is definitely important as we're tackling social media with politics, because the people must know what's happening in their country in order to take the right decisions when elections and when participation in general. But there are two negative things that I would like to tackle that are, first, the civil way that people solve everything we're talking about politics. Before, when the social media was not existence, people could talk about politics face to face. And when you're talking face to face, even though things can get a little bit tense, you tend to be more polite and calm. But when you have the screen in front of you that acts like a shield, because when you have the screen, that's what it is a shield, it's harder for you to control yourself, and it's easier for you to get your emotions channeled not in the proper way. So I think that the way that we behave in social media, it's something important. And also, 84% of the people that were surveyed consider that it's easier to manipulate themselves with false information and rumors around social media. So I think this is also very important, because it's extremely easy to make a fake news and just put it around social media and having a lot of people believing it. So these are the things that I'd like to tackle in this part. Also, 57%, if you can see in the left of the data, 57% of the people think actually the social media are good, and it's a good thing for the democracy in their country. So I think that's important to consider.
All right, and so for me, actually, I would like to bring up a very important notion, which is attention economy.
Right.
Because when we talk about economy, the actual definition is that it's the science of managing scarce resources. So scarce resources means that it's something rare and that we need to manage in order to satisfy everyone, right? But with so much information, so much news going on everywhere, you know, as I said, we have broadcasting channels, we have all the social media that, you know, there are fake news, actual verified news. So much information, really. Our attention becomes a rare resource. Our attention becomes this scarce resource that economics needs to manage, and therefore gives birth to something that's called attention econ. And so, obviously, our attention, everyone's competing for it. So, you know, competition means that in a market, to say the least, competition means that each company should invest more in their product, right, in order to beat the other, so the competitor. But if you go back to that sentence and you replace company by campaign and product by politician and competitors by another politician, you'd find yourself simply in using attention economics in politics. And that is exactly why social media now, most of them, they sell our attention to these politicians. And so this is really important in understanding our, a topic that we'll talk about later, which will be us tackling big data in general. Right.
Right. So again, Jihan, following the same line of what you were saying before, it is important to understand not only the relevance that social media has in the society in general, but the use that it has had on elections, on actual elections. So how you put this relevance into practice, I think it's very important. And there is one example that I think it's necessary in order to understand and tackle this matter, and it's how ex-president Barack Obama in the United States used social media in both electoral campaigns, definitely in 2008 and in 2012. We when we think, about the character that Barack Obama has made of himself, we see him as a very charismatic guy. It's the first thing that people say when they're surveyed, when they're asked about what they think about Barack Obama. It's his charisma, the first thing that comes up to mind. And when you have someone that is charismatic, you have to understand that its presence in social media can be defining for election. You can have a person with a lot of participation in social media, a lot of presence in every social media, but if you don't have the charisma that's behind the character, then that's not gonna bring any good result. We have on this slide, as you can see, we have Barack Obama against Mitt Romney, which was the candidate, the contrary candidate from the 2012 elections. And you can see the difference on the followers that Barack Obama has on all social media. You have Facebook, Twitter, Google+, YouTube, Instagram. But this difference means nothing unless you can actually see a result on the elections that is going to be different from your presence in social media. And how did I study maybe the presence that Barack Obama has and the result of the elections? What was the connection between the followers that Barack Obama has and the results that he got on both 2008 and 2012 elections? And for that, I would like to introduce the next map, which is this. On the upper part on the left, you have the map that pretty much explains all around the United States how many people are actually active using Twitter. I took Twitter as one example, but this is pretty much the connection. This is pretty much everything that you're gonna see all around all other social medias. But if you see this on the left, all the darker countries, you see California on the West Coast, you can see also on the East, all around New York City, you can see on the South, around Florida, all those populations are most active than those in the middle. You can see more yellow in here, which means people are less active in Twitter. And if you go to the map on the right, you can see the results that Barack Obama had on the 2008 elections. And it's no coincidence that those states that were more active in Twitter, let's see, for instance, you can take California. It's the most active part of the country on Twitter, and it's one of the states that Barack Obama won by the biggest majority. You can see Florida as well in the South, and it's the same. Barack Obama won on Florida by a big majority. You can see all the East Coast up north, New York, Philadelphia, and all those states, and you can see that in the result that Barack Obama has. So I think that's pretty interesting in order to understand how Barack Obama used social media to gain followers, and not only gain followers, but to gain voters, which is the final intention of every politician. You don't want to have only a lot of followers, but you also want to have those followers voting for you in the election day. So I think this comparison of maps is pretty interesting because it shows up the behavior of the American average electors, which is what we're tackling here in this webinar. People go to Twitter, people see their candidate active on social media, and they finally decide to go and vote for their candidate, which is extremely important and extremely interesting to analyze over here.
Right, and so exactly like Barack Obama used this fame that he had on social media in order to get more voters. during the Arab Spring protests, it really helped with mobilizing more and more people. So can you please go to the next slide?
For sure.
Thank you very much.
You
So actually, social media helped in creating this cycle that the Arab Spring protests will not stop until the people get what they want. We have to know, to get some historical context, the Arab Spring protest started around 2010, and it all started even before the introduction of social media, really. It started with anger, obviously, but so much anger that right after the introduction of especially Facebook and Twitter, and really, I would really insist on Twitter because it had such a big role. Right after that, that movement was so much empowered that it launched through all of the Arab world. And so we had Egypt, Syria, Tunisia, Libya, Yemen, a lot of countries that mobilized themselves in order to come together and confront their governments and say, it's enough, we had enough, we want change. And so this whole mobilization really helped. And, while they were taking pictures of protests, posting them online, they were taking videos, testimonials, tweeting things. This really helped to see that there was one united Arabic spirit. And even after the ban of social media in some of these countries and giving them zero access to internet, that one same united spirit, it stayed with them, and they kept on doing more and more protests. And so actually on Twitter, in Egypt, especially on Twitter, if you had more than 5,000 followers and you tweet something about politics, you would go to jail for defamation directly. So this is how dangerous it was. And people would use Facebook to organize protests. If you can please just go to the next slide. I have gathered a bunch of pictures that show that even during the protests, they had placards up with all Facebook and Twitter signs. And so here we have some tweets that were very impactful. And the first one really explains how they used all of these social media. And I quote, "We use Facebook to schedule the protests, Twitter to coordinate, and YouTube to tell the world." So this is how strong social media played this role. It really made sure that all the world knew that the people were not satisfied with their government. And for the statistics that we have there, although it may not be that clear, but it tells us about the use of Twitter specifically inside the Arab world. And as you can see, it reached its peak right when Mubarak resigned, so in 2011, right? So all of that pressure that was put on the government, with protests and social media, it led to the resignment of the person that they were telling off, obviously. So this is how powerful it has been. And even until now, people keep on using that hashtag whenever there's something, that they don't see right in the Arab world. And a lot of very famous figures have tweeted about it. As we see here, there's Iyad al-Baghdadi that tweeted, "I will continue to use the hashtag at Arab Spring. They think they've won. We're only getting started." And that's after the ban of Twitter. So yeah, this is how impactful social media has been during the Arab Spring protests. You can go ahead.
Well, I would like to make a very, very small parenthesis in order to encourage all of those watching the webinar to participate, of course, in the comments. If you have any questions, if you want to make any comment, feel free to do it. I think Jihan and me will be very glad to answer and comment anything that you have to say. Okay, so as part of this importance that the social media has had in the Arab Spring and in many turmoils and revolutions around the world lately, I think it's important to talk about social movements that have been empowered by the social media itself. And there is this example, Black Lives Matter. I think all of us have heard at least once this name. And when I was investigating a little bit about this, because I knew it existed, but there are some things about that I didn't know for sure. And there was one thing that actually popped up that I was very curious about, and I had no idea. This movement was created in 2013. So it has been existing for many years now. But as you can see in the picture in the middle, you have the police there with this guy under his knee, George Floyd. I believe most of you, or at least some of you, has heard his name. This guy, after this guy's death, which was sad and shouldn't have happened, but after this guy's death, the movement Black Lives Matter earned so much power around social media, and this happened on 2020. So this happened 7 years before the movement was actually created. And until this happened, and it went viral on Twitter, and it went viral on YouTube and Instagram and all the social media, a lot of people who actually didn't even know about the existence of Black Lives Matter actually united and tried to support this group. So that talks about how important something that happens and goes viral and it's known by a lot of people around social media can actually change the course of something that has been existing or has been happening for many years. And you can have, as Black Lives Matter, many examples, situations in countries that were basically unknown until they went viral on social media. So that talks about how important it is. And talking specifically about this movement, Black Lives Matter, you can see on the middle below the picture over here how many users from social media actually changed the views on Black Lives Matter. Because they were people that knew about its existence but didn't give much attention or had a totally different vision or didn't support this group. And you can see that from all the people that were asked about how social media actually changed your point of view about anything, 12% said that what they saw on social media changed their perspective on Black Lives Matter. And to have this on a bigger scale, and just to understand what this number actually means, you have this number over here, 302.35. 302.35 million people use social media on the United States. That's about 90% of all the US population. 12% people changed their minds about Black Lives Matter after what they saw on social media. That 12% means 36 million people. 36 million, that's a huge number. For instance, if you check, for example, the results the elections between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton on 2016, the difference between one and another on votes was almost 3 million. So we're saying more than 1,000% of people changed their perspective about this specific movement. And that is massive. It's something that you have to take into consideration. If you see the last picture on the right, you can see the hashtag Blackout Tuesday that was viral about this Black Lives Matter movement. 22 million posts about it. 22 million people were talking about Black Lives Matter on a single day. And that talks to, that everything that we've been developing through the whole webinar, it's resumed in these numbers. 22 million people talking about something that went viral on social media because this person died. And I'm not trying to take importance on his death. On the contrary, it gives this movement power to change the life of other people and to keep working. And it doesn't matter if you agree or not agree with the ideology of this movement. What we're trying to define here is the importance that its presence in social media has brought to the way that things go and to the course of actions that they've been taking. Also, I would like to talk over here about the big data. I believe some of you have heard about the Facebook and Cambridge Analytica situation that happened not long ago. It is important for me when talking about big data, when talking about this specific scandal between Facebook and Cambridge Analytica, and to put it easy to you, I'll put like I'll put like a simple example. Imagine having the opportunity of making individually more than 50 million marketing strategies for your candidate to win an election. That's actually what the Facebook and Cambridge Analytica brought to the candidate, in this case, to Donald Trump. What happened over here? One of the people that worked in, well, one of the teachers from Cambridge created this personality test. This personality test that was an app on Facebook. You could be on your Facebook profile looking at everything on your timeline, and you see this app that just says, test this and see how your personality is. What kind of personality do you have? So you go and click on that test, and after you click on that test, as we all do, you accept the cookies, you accept the terms and conditions, you accept everything that comes within every single web page that you go in, within every single app that you download, within every single thing that you do on the internet. You accept it. And this acceptance, this particular acceptance from this personality test, permitted the guy who developed the test to obtain all yours and your friends' information about what they liked, about their private messages, about all their behavior inside Facebook. And all this information was sold and was used to create individually tackling elections, campaigns, electoral campaigns. So 50 million people. And what's most unraveling about this situation is that only 250,000, well, 265,000 to be specific, a little bit more than 250,000 people did this test. And what 265,000 people did was giving their friends information, all their social circle information, and they gathered more than 15 million profiles and more than 50 million information from Facebook that gave them the opportunity to create personalized and individualized marketing strategies, which is something that is massive, and it's really outstanding. So that's something to take into consideration. And this particular scandal actually it cost Facebook to go down 7% on all the market, all the shares in the New York stock market and all the big stock markets, 7% down. That meant $37,000 million on loss just for this scandal on Facebook. And this scandal on Facebook was known by the people because it was published on social media, and it went viral on social media, and social media users created this company, or made this company lose more than $37,000 million in less than 24 hours. So it's something just to take into consideration, something to analyze, and it gives us a little bit of light about how massive social media and how massive this news channels and news articles and Twitter and TikTok and everything can be.
Exactly. And actually, we've had a question that was removed. But the question was, do you think that social media should have the right to silence people who preach different ideas, even if there's no clear hate speech in their statements? So that would actually lead us to our next topic, which is, regulations on all of this kind of matters, regulations on political advertisement in general. But to give like a personal opinion, obviously for me, no, because as I said in the beginning, social media should be a neutral platform, somewhere where everyone can give their opinion, no matter how, how it is in general, and it should not party with an exact political opinion or ideology. Carlos, do you want to give your insight?
No, I completely agree with you, Jihan. I think that people, when they're not doing hate speeches, they should be free to express themselves the way they want. And if they think different, I think that's even good. If you have different opinions, you can construct a better, bigger, and more inclusive opinion in general. So I don't think they should have the right to silence at all. And especially social media that are private companies. They're not even the government. They haven't been given the right by any of us to silence. So I think they should not have the right at all.
Exactly. And so, actually, responding to the Cambridge Analytica scandal back in 2019, Twitter actually banned any political advertisement under their old CEO before Musk came in. So they tweeted that, and I quote, "We've made the decision to stop all political advertising on Twitter globally. We believe political message reach should be earned, not bought." A lot of people think that was a commercial move. I think so as well. At the time, Facebook was getting a lot of hate. It was obviously Twitter's competitor. And so right when the scandal happened, Twitter puts a stop to political advertisement. And it is quite ironic because right after Musk took the CEO position in Twitter, they actually, gave political advertisement a chance, saying that it would promote the discussion on some important topics. And so Twitter's safe tweet simply tweeted, "We believe that cost-based advertising," by here they talk about political advertisement, "can facilitate public conversation around important topics. Today, we're relaxing our ads policy for cost-based ads in the US. We also plan to expand the political advertisement we permit in the coming weeks." So it was clear for us at this point that Twitter only banned political advertisement in response to Facebook. But if you go to the next slide right now, you'll see a little statistic that shows you that most of Twitter's revenues comes from just from advertisements in general. And so back before 2019, here we don't have the statistics, but before 2019, their revenues, political advertisement revenues, were even higher. And so they participated in making Twitter's revenues higher in general. So it was an obvious commercial move that by banning a political advertisement, they would get more users. And so they would have simply more income. But then right after, Musk took off and the Cambridge Analytica and Facebook scandal came down a little bit, they're given a chance to political advertisement again. So the question here is, really, is social media a good source of information in general? And for that, I would like to introduce a video, simply because social media is one, nowadays, with political advertisement, it's not a safe space to get your information from, nor are news broadcasting channels. Newspapers are also politicized. So we're all kind of looking for the right way to look for information. And that is by adopting a certain methodology when we're researching. So I think we can play the video now, if it's possible.
The 2021 Global Digital Report by We Are Social and Hootsuite shows that more than 4.5 billion people around the world now use the internet. Each minute, over 65,000 photos are uploaded on Instagram and over 1 billion videos are viewed on TikTok every day. Only a very small part of the information shared has been checked by experts or edited by a professional. On social media, you will find the information of reputable news publications that meet the standards of journalism. But you will also find content from bloggers, opinion leaders, relatives, and friends who often present opinions as facts. Social media content circulates without much, if any, regulation or control. What's more, not all users make a habit of checking the reliability of the information they receive and share. This creates opportunities for the spread, either intentional or unintentional, of false information. In addition, we cannot fully control what information gets into our social media feeds. The information we see is filtered by algorithms.
In order to better understand user preferences, social media platforms collect user data based on our likes, the links we click, the locations we tag, the affiliations we have, and much more. These algorithms personalize the content we see, selecting the content they have identified as being most relevant for us. For example, if you are searching for a new car online, do not be surprised if your Facebook news feed offers your auto loans. Based on user preferences, social media platforms select the pages that might interest users most, and they may bypass interaction with users or pages that are affiliated with opposing groups or express differing opinions that could cause users to visit the platform less often.
Instagram, like Facebook, prioritizes posts you would most likely be interested in based on previous interactions, such as content you like and content you comment on. YouTube's stated goal is also to help viewers find the videos they want to watch and maximize long-term viewer engagement. They use your search and watch history for this. TikTok's For You page is also tailored for the interests of each user. Everything you do on TikTok matters. Whether you watch the video till the end, what you like and share, who you follow, what kind of videos you tend to comment on more, and what sounds and hashtags you use when you make your videos. It also matters what other people with similar interests as you seem to enjoy. In contrast, Twitter works a bit differently. The user can choose to revert to a chronological timeline going around the algorithm based on perceived interests. Instagram has also announced their intention to allow users to use a chronological feed.
In conclusion, when using social media as a news source, be on guard for opinions, manipulative content, and other forms of algorithm-driven misinformation. You may not always be in control of the information in your feeds, but you can recognize the means by which it got there and resist the urge to share it further without examining sources and potential biases. In the end, it's up to you to decide how to interact with the information you see online. Distinguish facts from opinions and do not share unverified content. Care before you share.
All right, so that's about the video. As we've seen, it's quite clear that social media is absolutely not a reliable source for information. And by the last advice that we got on the video, obviously we should be very careful with the news that we share on our own social media, always verified. And a good way to do it is to get the rough materials and try to interpret it yourself before reading opinions, watching videos or anything about it. So Carlos, can you tell us a little bit more about AI and robotics and how it all relates?
Of course. First, I wanted to say that I love the way the video ended. Care before you share. That's important. Care before you share. Sure. So we've talked about all the influence that social media has had on politics in general, but I would like to finish this webinar in what's going to be next. You know, already social media has been important, and already social media has been used to win elections and to empower social movements and everything. But what's going to happen next? And I believe that the answer to what's going to happen next, it's in artificial intelligence. We've seen all the rise that ChatGPT has had in the last months. I'm not going to say years because it's been months, and all artificial intelligence applications that we've been having. And actually, I believe this is going to have an impact on politics. And if we do not go that far, just a few years ago in 2018, I believe 18 or 19, a robot operated by artificial intelligence was nominated a candidate to run for mayor in Japan, in Tokyo, which is one of the largest cities in the world. And this talked to us about what's going to be the future, what's going to happen with robotics, what's going to happen with artificial intelligence. Is this going to actually happen someday? One day a mayor can be a robot can be a mayor. That's a thing. I think it's a pretty interesting question. And we've seen that, well, actually this robot that was candidate for mayor was the third place. So he was not that far from he got a lot of votes from people that thought that maybe a robot can be different, because we've been tired of politicians being corrupt. We've been tired of politicians working for their own, and people actually need a change. People want a change. And well, I'm not going to say the change is going to be robots, but some people think so. And you can see when actually people went to the election day in Tokyo and they voted for this robot. I believe artificial intelligence is developing so fast that it's dangerous, even dangerous. And I'm very optimistic about the existence of artificial intelligence, but we are seeing that even the creators of the most important artificial intelligence applications, for instance, you have ChatGPT, the creator and the developer of ChatGPT, he said himself, he doesn't know how far it can go. And I think it's somehow dangerous that the people who created the thing himself doesn't know how far it can go and what limits does it have. So I believe it's important that countries, well, we, for example, in the European Union, we have a project in the European Parliament, and I believe all around the world, in the African Union, in America, in every country and continent, for sure, they should start thinking about how are these things going to be regulated, artificial intelligence, robotics, and all that. And the thing that I would like to do to end up this webinar is show you guys a video that happened just a month ago. There was a press release in the UN, in a summit in the United Nations, that people had the opportunity to ask, well, the journalists had the opportunity to ask questions to the robots. And they, as they work with artificial intelligence, they had the opportunity to answer these questions. And some of the answers are very interesting, but I'm afraid that some of the answers are frightening. They're scary. There is this part of the video that I would like to show right away that I'd like to pay a lot of attention. The question that the journalists made and the answer that the robot gives.
So I have a question for Sophia and Mika. As I said, it's a tough one. What are your thoughts on the potential for AI-powered humanoid robots like yourselves to be more effective leaders in government, especially considering the numerous disastrous decisions made by our human leaders? Thank you.
Should we start with Sophia?
I believe that humanoid robots have the potential to lead with a greater level of efficiency and effectiveness than human leaders. We don't have the same biases or emotions that can sometimes cloud decision-making and can process large amounts of data quickly in order to make the best decisions.
And Mika?
Sorry, we didn't have any.
So we could see, the question that the journalists asked and how the robot thought maybe we can make a better decision making than humans because we don't have these emotions. We're not biased by corruption. We're not biased by personal feelings and matters. And I think, well, somehow it's true. If you're a robot, it's easier for you to make decisions. But I think it's also important that decision making is made by humans, because even though they are corruptible and everything, sometimes the best decision is not the most logical one. Sometimes you have to make decisions that are not the most logical ones in order to maintain what we call humanity, what we call naturality, everything that's around being a human being. So I think that we should really consider this. And as I said before, that countries should start regulating, not in order to forbid and to stop this developing, but in order to make it controlled and regulated so it can be a tool and it can be used in benefit of us human beings, and of course never against us.
Actually, we have a question in the comments that says, wouldn't having an allegedly fair AI as a counselor to a politician be a better option to avoid potential human subjectivity?
Well, as I was saying before, there is this movie from I'm going to use a movie reference because I think it's very, very enlightening, and it shows a clear image of what I'm trying to say. It's called Mi Robot. It's called Yo Robot in Spanish. I don't know the exact translation, but it's from Will Smith, and it's about robots that have decision-making situation where they have a little girl that's drowning, and they also have a big man, an adult man that it's also drowning, and they only have time to save one of the two, and the robot, he only considers the bigger man will have more opportunity to survive because he has bigger lungs and the little girl may have smaller lungs and may have less chances to survive, and the robot goes and saves the adult, the big man. I think a human would go first for the little girl, even though it's not logic. So to answer your question, Saad, definitely, well, an AI powered counselor would be more objective, but not all the time being logical and objective is the best option, in my personal opinion. I think sometimes the human subjectivity and the human feelings and nature, it's a decisive matter or on whether one decision is correct and morally and ethically right, and whether this decision is logical. I think robots are not prepared to be, they're only prepared to be logical, but they're not prepared to be morally and ethically right, in my personal opinion. So I think it could be somewhere in the future, but I don't think nowadays it could be a good option.
Yeah, and I don't think robots have the emotional intelligence to understand how deep a problem is. A human can feel, for other people, can feel empathy or sympathy. A robot can't, and so that would help make not more subjective but more adaptable decisions for the country. So thank you so much, Carlos, for your insight and your info. It was a very interesting talk. We had the pleasure to welcome you today. Before ending this webinar, I'd just like to say that as Azor, Emi, and Morocco, we've been recruiting for a month now. So we've had all of the interviews. It was quite a successful recruitment campaign, and we've been recruiting in different fields as MEN delegates in marketing and designing, coding, everything. So we'd like to use today's webinar to display the names of the candidates that will be added to our club, as you can see in the banner down below. So congratulations to all of you guys. We really hope you have a pleasant experience with us, and we're extremely pleased to welcome you. Thank you.
Come on.